Hello, Internet. It is May 6th, 2020. This is the weekly Backdrop developer meeting where we get together every week and talk about the latest happenings in Backdrop. It's an exciting week this week because we are post feature freeze that happened just on Sunday, this past Sunday, and we have a little over a week before Backdrop 119 comes out on May 15th. So before we get into the full agenda, we'll do some introductions. I will start. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet, and I'm core committer for Backdrop. Let's get a little introduction from Robert.
I'm Robert Lang from Altadena, California, bug folder on the internet, and I'm interested in working on things related to layouts lately. Olaf.
Yeah, I'm Olaf Grabienski from Hamburg in Germany, and I'm a long-time Drupal and Backdrop user, site builder mainly, and also a member of the PMC for a year, I guess. And yeah, I'm curious what is happening in these days.
Okay. We also have Doc Wilmont, Andy Schellingford joining with us, lurking right now, but not in a place to talk. So great to have everybody here. We will go on to section in the agenda. First thing we normally cover is updates from the PMC. Olaf is kind of our representative of the PMC that is present this week. Do we have any updates, Olaf?
No, actually no updates. Certainly we are discussing things, so we are active, but we have no updates for today.
Okay, thanks, Olaf. Contributed projects. In the last week, we've had 4 new contributed projects have their first releases for Backdrop. That includes support of the Image Magic module. Happy to see that. Ajax comments module, GeoIP tokens, and profile registration path modules are 4 new modules that just came out in this past week for Backdrop. There also were several project updates. I think we had an additional 5 modules have releases this week besides those. Always great to see continuing activity moving forward in Contrib, and thanks to all of our Contrib authors who are out there making modules for Backdrop all the time. We'll go right into the core project update. Our current state of things, as I mentioned at the beginning, is that we're in this short period in between the feature freeze that happens the first of the month before the release of Backdrop that happens every 4 months. So May 15th is the scheduled release date for May or for the 119 version. We don't see any reason why we wouldn't come out at that date as planned. The current state of things, let's see. Well, let's start with what happened with the issues that didn't get completed. So we made a new milestone, 1.20, which will be the next version of Backdrop that will come out in September. The carried over issues that didn't get into 119 include exposing a file name filter for the media library dialog, issue 3293. There are just some technical challenges there with the way that the media dialog is set up that make that a little bit challenging. The advanced caching functionality, adding cache tags and a dynamic cache max age header that Joseph has been working on, issue 4127. That got pushed primarily because we didn't have time to review it and check all of the changes that it makes, which has far-reaching implications for all of Backdrop, and we didn't have enough time to review those changes. I should say that, yeah, we didn't have reviewers in time, I should say. There was plenty of time for the issue, so no faulting on Joseph there, just on the reviewers such as myself that didn't have time to look at it. And lastly, field has value visibility condition and an addition to layout module to make it so that fields would provide conditional, conditionals to hiding and showing particular blocks, issue 4728. Jen Lampton was taking a look at this one, but I don't think that a pull request ever materialized for that issue. So those 3 items were advocated issues that got bumped into the next release, 1.20. We'll probably want to evaluate if those things are feasible for this next release and either take them off the slate or continue pushing for them to get completed in the next release. There are a lot of items for 119 that did get in. This past week was very exciting for the code-free sprint that happened, feature-free sprint that happened over the weekend. We pushed forward and completed 3 of the remaining features that we were hoping to get in, including adding support for relationships to layout contexts, issue 2134. Doc Wilmont was the advocate for this one and really made it so that we could get all of that from nothing into existence. I put in some last minute reviewing on it, so did Herb Duel, and together we kind of got that one over the finish line. Looks great. We're super excited about it. The new functionality is super awesome. It lays the groundwork for a lot more functionality, though, that we only added 1 relationship out of the box in core right now, and that is the ability to get a node's author, the user context of the author from a node. There's lots of other possibilities for relationships, though. Things like getting the file entity off of a file field, taxonomy terms, lots of potential options there. So we have definitely have some follow-up work to be done there, but the base functionality of relationships is now in core, which is very exciting. Let's see, there's also a follow-up issue related to that. There's a very minor UI change that we're trying to work on, that where you add a relationship in the layout UI, there is a link directly above it that says add context, and then below it, there's the link for add relationship, the new button. And the way that these are printed right now, they are both in an unordered list separate, and they should be in one unordered list side by side instead. So it's a pretty minor UX issue, but it has some complexities in getting it fixed. There's an issue for that, issue 5074, that is kind of a follow-up for that we're hoping to get completed in the next couple of days before 119 comes out. Very minor, though. We also got in the issue that Gregory was advocating for, the combining of the modules, themes, and layouts update pages into a single page, issue 2714. I like this issue a lot because it makes it so that there's like less clutter on things like the modules page and on the layouts page, that previously there was multiple tabs up at the top for listing the available layout templates, installing new layout templates, and updating layout templates. And honestly, updating layout templates, updating themes, it's kind of a less common action. It was making noise on the page. Plus, you had to go to 3 different places to check for updates across all of your different things, whether they were themes or modules or layout templates. Now there's only 1 page, and you can do all of the updating from that 1 new page. So 2714 is that issue number. I think that we had also talked a little bit about splitting off some changes to the dashboard block that were holding up that issue for months. In the end, we got all of the problems resolved, I believe. And so that dashboard block doesn't need a follow-up issue. We're all set there for that new page. I think there was a little bit of discussion about moving where it lives in the menu system. There was a funny conversation that spun out regarding the admin menu underneath configure, we have developer, and inside of developer is stuff like maintenance mode and logging messages. But then there is a menu item for system, and inside of system is stuff like site information, like the site name, and cron. And there was some discussion about like, what's the difference really between system and developer? Because where this new page ended up was under system. There was some argument that perhaps it should have been under developer, like is updating modules and themes a developer action. Anyway, now there's going to be another discussion about like system and developer, like do these menu items really make sense, and let's revisit the contents that are inside of them. I personally think cron should be under developer, and so should update modules, but I don't know. There's a lot of things to look at regarding like what are these things actually doing. So anyway, 2714 also reached a happy conclusion. Yeah, Olaf, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to look at the switch which Drupal 8 made. Partially, they moved a lot of things into the developer submenu. Like, for example, also contributed modules like backup and migrate went from system to developer. And yeah, I think it's still not very consistent there. And yeah, I think it's really a hard discussion because there's so many aspects to discuss. So it's always interesting, but hard to really find a solution.
Yeah, I'm sure that if we got into it, I would love to just rant a little bit about the site information configuration page and what exactly is that page trying to do, because it's like the site title and the site slogan. Okay, that's site information for sure. But then it also is responsible for what the paths of your 404 and like 403 pages are. And it's like, well, how is that related? That is clearly like very developer oriented, like what happens when you go to a 404 page, as opposed to what's the name of your site. One of these questions every site has to answer. The other question is complete edge case. And so putting them on the same form, just, I don't know, it's just the legacy, you know, the baggage that we've had from that site information page has existed since the dawn of Drupal, really. And so I think that it's just kind of, there's never been a better place to put those settings, and maybe there could be. Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in on just their random thoughts on those pages?
That's also, I think, a question if we focus on people coming from Drupal or with Drupal experience, or on new people. Because for new people, it doesn't make many sense, but many of us are so, we know this like for years, and so if we change it, it has to be really good, because we're so used to it. And every time, for example, when I switch to Drupal 8 and I want to make a database backup, I look in system because I'm so used to it. And so in my opinion, that has to be really a good solution if we change it, because many people come from Drupal.
Yep. I agree. Okay. Well, anyway, that was all spun out from this 2714, the updates pages. I definitely like one page instead of 3 different pages. Reduces noise, makes everything all in one place. Improvements all around. That's also related to, all of this is within the installer module, which just generally is good to see some cleanup happening in the installer module. That module was moved not exactly wholesale out of contrib, but it definitely was like put in functionality first and then like let's revisit and clean up later. So I'm really appreciative to see some of that cleanup coming to pass. Let's see. And lastly, something that we finished up over the code sprint is initial PHP 8 support. So that's issue 4772. The initial pull request has been merged that incorporates a lot of HOSIF's work to make Backdrop just like install and function correctly. There were some major changes needed regarding the database abstraction layer, that the way that it was set up, it just does not work with PHP 8. And so the initial patches fix the database layer, fix some other notices that happen basically on every single page load. We also had some Backdrop specific fixes that needed to happen because of date module in particular was something that had a lot of differences from Drupal, because in Drupal land, they don't have date module as part of core, like having a backdrop date object, for example. The backdrop date object extends the PHP date time object, and that's where a lot of API changes have occurred. So we had to change the way the datetime object worked quite a lot. We had to change a lot how the database objects worked quite a lot, because they also were extending PDO settings or PDO objects from PHP. So anyway, it took a lot of work, but the initial pull request gets Backdrop working. You can run the tests, about 95% of them pass, but there's still some edge case functionality that isn't quite working on PHP 8 as of yet. We decided not to put it into the 118 release because it has pretty far-reaching consequences. So we only put it into the 119 branch. So instead of it being a bug fix, which it technically is because it's just adding support for PHP 8, that's a bug, not supporting it. We decided to only put it into 119 because it has kind of some far-reaching changes to some of the deepest levels of the APIs of Backdrop. So that is to say, 119 is now feature complete. It would be a great idea for any developers out there that are looking to upgrade to the next version of Backdrop as soon as possible to try out the Backdrop 119 preview release. That came out on Tuesday. It includes all of the new features. As far as we know, there aren't any substantial bugs in it, but that's why we have the preview releases, to have this 2-week period for like trial, testing it out, seeing if there's any problems so that we can get those issues resolved before the official release comes out on the 15th. Let's see, there was that minor change regarding the layout UI. That's the only follow-up that we have. We also had another follow-up that Indigo Zella raised regarding a new feature that we added into Backdrop Add CSS. The regression issue is 5070. That got fixed over the code sprint as well. Final preparatory tasks that we have for 119 include the blog post. We have to draft up a blog post listing out all of the changes that are in 119. Tim usually takes that on. I don't think that we've assigned or had a volunteer for that officially yet, but we'll try to get that in place. There's also one change record that needs to be written regarding Backdrop Add CSS that you can now, it now has some additional capabilities, and we need a change record written for that. And that's it, actually. The 119 release milestone, you can check that for any other things that there are no other things right now, but if there are other things that get pushed into like emergency, we need to fix this before we make the release, that's where they would be under the 119 milestone on GitHub. Usually during this little week-long lull is actually what it is, because we can't put in new features while the 119 branch, before the 119 branch is actually created. So right now, the latest version of Backdrop 1.x is going to be 119. So for the next couple of weeks or next 10 days, we won't be merging in any new features because we haven't branched yet for the 1.20. So what that usually means is that now is the perfect time to go bug squashing. So 118 is actually where 118.4 is the next milestone for bug fixes. And if you're looking for things to do, checking the 118.4 milestone is the best place to go to try to find things to fix in the meantime. So bug squashing is usually what happens in this window, even if they're not bugs specific to the new version. It's a great time to go back and look at the bugs that are on current sites on the current version of Backdrop and try to get those fixed. So speaking of those issues, the 118.4 issues, we have a couple of things that are interesting that could use some eyeballs. This issue regarding config is really rather important. It looks like Doc Wilmot looked at it just 6 days ago, pointed out that we need some tests on this issue 3224. Module config is not synced on install. And Joseph raised this issue as being important, that if a module wants to include fields, that we need to fire these config hooks so that the related database tables get created on the installation of the module. And this would be helpful for the effort to make it so that Backdrop could have recipe modules where you turn them on and a whole swath of functionality comes over from the config directory. So issue 3224, it already has a pull request. It's been tested pretty positively, but Doc Wilmot is absolutely correct that we need some automated tests to get test coverage on this new, not quite sure if it's actually a new feature, but on this bug fix. Also, an exciting change that is in progress is issue 5046. It's a performance-related issue that Alan Mells pulled up relating to the admin modules page, that it has some slowness on it because it has a recursive file system check that is getting executed multiple times per page, and it really only needs to be executed once. So this issue 5046 substantially speeds up the loading of the modules page, which is pretty great. So we need some additional review on this issue 5046 for anyone that has the time available. Let's see. There's also an issue regarding another. Oh shoot! It's not. Sorry, it's actually 118.4, not 118.3. Sorry. So I'm checking 118.4. We had a performance fix that happened this past week that is worth mentioning. Issue 5028. Joseph found an issue that there is a kind of an obscure function called field sync field status. And this function is part of fields module that checks to see whether or not fields are enabled or disabled or not. And it also has to do with like cleaning up deleted menu entry or deleted fields and things of that nature. So sync field status, although an obscure function, it gets called every time cron is run, every time caches are cleared, and every time a module is enabled or disabled. So 3 pretty common use cases, especially cron and the cache clearing. He found that this function also gets called once for every module in the system, and it really only needs to get called once total. And so this performance optimization substantially sped up cron runs and cache clears, which is great. So big thanks, Joseph, for your work on issue 5028. Really exciting to see that in. Great performance optimization there. Every time we have these performance optimizations, I get there's a certain part of me that really just absolutely loves them. Like performance engineering is a large part of my job. And so I feel like Backdrop already is really fast, I think, especially if you look over in the world of Drupal where things are not fast at all. I just get, but like making Backdrop even faster, I just feel like, it's already really fast. So I love making it even faster. Just a certain part of me that makes me so happy. Even compared to WordPress. WordPress is slow and pokey compared to the speed of Backdrop. Like it's just really, really exciting. I love seeing that. All right, well, I've been talking for quite some time now. That's the end of the updates for 118, 119, and the upcoming 120. I'm going to take a break here, pause, see if any of those present have anything they'd like to add or talk about anything before we go on to like initiatives, which won't take very long. No? Okay. Well, initiatives are long-running projects that span multiple releases potentially. The only initiative that we currently have active is telemetry. Telemetry is an initiative that we'd like to have a module that is installed on Backdrop sites that reports back to backdropcms.org various information about how Backdrop is configured so that we can make better decisions about the direction of the project. And so the initial implementation, we just collect really basic statistics like the PHP version, what web server people are running, and the database version. So those three things are in the initial proof of concept for telemetry. The issue where most of this is happening is in issue 285, an old one. So we have a module that is a proof of concept. We have the server-side module that extends project module that we would install on backdropcms.org. Next steps for this primarily are making some server-side enhancements to make it so that if backdropcms.org gets sent information that we don't want, such as stuff from a contrib module, then we discard that information and don't save it. We don't want to get into situations where backdropcms.org might be unwittingly collecting personally identifiable information from modules that we haven't vetted. And so making sure that we're not collecting too much information is something that we need to do on the server side. And on the client side, we need to work the new telemetry module better into the Backdrop installation process. So right now, when you install Backdrop, we have these two checkboxes. One of them says check for updates, and then the other one says, I can't remember actually, notify me of security updates, I think. Check for updates and notify me for security updates. And I think that that's the notify me for security updates is important because we're sending somebody email, even though it's their own site sending them email. And what we'd like to change that to is always check for updates by default, but instead replace that with a checkbox that says send anonymous information to backdropcms.org. So we swap out one of the checkboxes for a new one that enables or disables telemetry. Update module, on the other hand, starts always being enabled. However, we'd also like to make it so that you can have your site check for updates, but not report your module versions to backdropcms.org. So that one checkbox would do two things. It would either enable and disable the telemetry module, and it would change the setting in update module as to whether or not your site was recorded in the usage statistics or not. But update checking should always be enabled. It's just a matter of whether or not a user would want their site to be recorded or not. So that's the changes that we'd like to see to move the telemetry project forward. It's been stuck kind of for a while now. we've been shifting our attentions to the 119 release, but now's a great time to get back into the telemetry initiative because 119 is now feature complete. That's all I've got for today's update on everything Backdrop. We have a section at the end. We usually allow for like Q&A. If you guys have anything you guys would like to talk about on the recording, now would be the time. So I'll open the floor. Okay. What about Justin? I see you joined us late. Welcome to the party.
Yeah.
Is there anything you'd like to discuss as well?
No, I think I'm just in the background today, but
Okay.
if
Well,
there's
thank you for joining.
anything you need, let me know.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
All right. Well, I think that we will end the official meeting then. Thank you all for joining the meeting. Thanks to all of our Backdrop community members that have been rushing towards the end of the feature thaw. And we had a really successful sprint, lots of participation, and I really appreciated all of that last minute effort as well. So thanks everybody out there. We're excited about the 119 release. It'll be coming out in 10 days. And yeah, we'll see you guys around on the internet. So thanks everybody. Bye.